Okay, welcome back to the second video in this series of three for this same person who sent me these three K7000s that are all dead. And we've already knocked out one, so this is the second one, so I assume this one's dead as well, but I don't know if this is the one that had no B+, or if the one that was working and then died. So we'll figure it out. But first off, visually, I see that we've got some rusty pots here on the neck board. Not too severe, but a little rusty, which corresponds to the heatsink here for the vertical IC is rusty, and so is the cage for the R103. And it looks like someone's been doing a lot of voltage regulator work on this, because we can see, maybe you can't because of the glare, there's a bunch of scratches and stuff here from someone changing out the vertical IC, maybe more than once, I don't know. And then we have what looks like it's been rebuilt, and by rebuilt I mean caps and flybacks, so I don't know if this is the one that was working and then died. I can't say. Whoever did the cap kit, they did a decent job, but they didn't change out the bipolar caps, so we may have to go digging through my spare caps bag and see if I can find some bipolar caps. These are for the color, so, well, RGB. And someone's replaced what looks like the width cap. C38 has one of the newer smaller style caps in it, and I'm curious, it is a 334, which is well, I think the factory one is 390.39. This one is 0.34, so should be close enough. But yeah, I don't see any, besides all that, I don't see any missing components. This is a 19-inch, of course, P447, 19-inch. These three chassis are two 19s and a 25, so we'll save the 25 for last. And they've replaced what looks like the contrast pot and the vertical size pot, no doubt from being broken. They seem okay, they're not broken either. Let's take a look at the back side. At least this one has the little strain relief piece that the last one didn't have. Let's take a look at the back side. A lot of flux residue left over on the HOT, so someone's replaced the HOT, and it looks like they've replaced the HOT, the voltage regulator C38, because there's still a bunch of flux residue all over the place. Look at all the flux residue on all the pots here. So all the pots look like they've been replaced. So pots, HOT, voltage regulator, C38. There's some reflow, attempted reflow here on R101. But it doesn't look too bad. It hasn't been, and reflowed the header pin. So some decent rework has been done, but it doesn't look like much else. Very decent job on the solder work, it looks like from first glance. So I guess what we'll have to do is, our flyback solder seems okay as well. What we'll have to do is just go through and do the testing that we normally do and see if we can find or spot anything that's no good. Looks like R101, the solder pad here is... Where's my pointer? Let's take a look here. Looks like the pad was oxidized. Yeah, see, look at this. Here's the pad. And they just bent the leg over and soldered it to the post, or the other via here, which is totally fine, but I'd like to fix this if I could. Not that it matters, but so that should not be an issue of it not firing up. Over here, I like to create a bridge across here. Not that you need it, but I like to create a bridge to increase the area for the surface area for the heat to flow, so it doesn't burn up the pads in the future. And if we look here at the voltage regulator, easy for me to say, solder work, it's not too bad. Not sure what's going on there. The HOT, you can see all those pads are gone, but that's fine, and this is okay, that's alright. We can test for continuity. None of this looks like it got cleaned up after. That's a lot of flux, wow. So, of course, none of this will keep it from powering up or being dead. Solder work on the replacement flyback seems pretty good. Well, nothing leaping out from visual inspection, so let's just do our testing, see what we get. Okay, let's just go with, well, let's go with diode mode here first. Alright, so HOT, let's zoom in a bit. Alright. What do we get for the HOT? Let's just, for continuity's sake, we'll go to, we want this pad to here and here, each side of the hole. So this is our center post, and then the two outside legs should be 0.5 voltage drop to each one. But to verify that we don't have a bad solder pad or solder joint, we're going to go to this pad since it's on the same trace. And this leg here is over to this trace. So if we go here to here, we got a shorted HOT. Nice. Okay, so, and then of course we go to this leg there. Yep. So continuity is okay, but from here to here and here to here, we got a shorted HOT. Fantastic. Well, right out of the gate, we got an issue. What about? Okay, just checking continuity there. What about our voltage regulator? Easiest way is just to make sure it reads 180 ohms from pins 1 and 4. 193. That's not too bad. If we go to pins 1 and 4, there's our voltage drop across our B+ resistor here. The blue and the red wires correspond to pins 1 and 4 on the voltage regulator. So, yep. So our voltage regulator seems to be okay. Well, I mean, at least it's not shorted. So we have a good reading. If we have, do we have 190 ohms or so on our resistor? Yep. So B+ resistor is good. Voltage regulator seems to be okay. Let's check D18. D18 is good. C38 is not shorted. That's all we're worried about. D13. Other way here. Okay, D13 is good. That's awful low. D14, it should be around 0.3. That seems awful low, but that could be a result of the HOT being shorted in circuit. That's a bit low. It should be closer to 0.3 for D14. I think 14 is the closest one. Yeah, D14. Yeah, there's two diodes in here that are, one's back there, one's right there. That's D13 and 14. Any of those being open or well, not shorted. Shorted is a different. Shorted, you'll have collapse issues and stuff. But if either one of those were open, that'll cause the chassis to not power up. So that's something worth checking. Okay, so far it's only the HOT that's given us issues. Let's check R104 here. 103, sorry. 104 is this one. R103, if that is open, it won't power up. But it should be like 2.7 ohms or so. 2.8, close enough. Okay. Well, someone's replaced R101. Interesting. All right. So R101 should be around 5K in circuit. And if you could see, that'd be nice. Yeah, 4.2. That's not out of the realm of normality in circuit. Let's see. R97 should be 270. Yeah. What is that one? R matey. R88 should be 1.8. Yep. R96. R89, sorry. 96 is the one that's not on the 19. 3.9. That's correct. 104 should be 15 ohms. That's correct. Okay. So D18 was good. C38 was not open or shorted. R97, 89, 88, 101, 104, 103. Voltage regulator, D13, D14. We had that odd reading on D14. And our critical safety cap, you know, this guy in here, this green four-legged cap in there, that's going to read shorted because our HOT is shorted. So if we go here to here, shorted, here to here, shorted. So there's two scenarios here. Everything seems to test okay except the voltage the HOT. So there's two ways to go about this. We can pull the critical safety cap and see if the HOT still reads shorted. If it does, the HOT is bad. If it doesn't, the critical safety cap is bad. But I think more than likely it's going to be the HOT. Now why the HOT went out, nothing else checked bad. We just did everything. Everything checked good. Well, I say check good for the readings, so I can't vouch that all the components are actually good. All I can vouch for at this moment is that they don't read bad. So I guess what we'll have to do is let's look at it one more time and see if there's anything that says, hey, here's your problem. I'm still suspect on that R101, but it's going right over to the pad, so and it's not loose. I don't see any legs on any components that are touching each other. No cracked joints. We got this cap here that's lifted the trace slightly, but it's not an open trace, so that's okay right here. That D14 sure has an odd reading, so I want to take out this HOT and see if our D14 jumps up to the 0.3, or I think it's like 0.2829, but what was it, 0.12? That's too low for D14. That's very odd. So let's get this HOT out of here and see what it reads out of circuit. Where is my screwdriver? It wasn't even tight. Not even close. Alright, and let's just use the braid for now. How much of this do I have left here? Oh, plenty! Gotta get my fan going here. You know what we didn't check? We didn't check the fuse. Some of you are probably screaming, why don't you check the fuse? So we didn't check the fuse and we didn't check the rectifier diodes. But if the fuse is good, the chances are the rectifier diodes are fine. But we'll check them anyway. Okay. You see what I'm doing there? I'm using the end of the iron to kind of bend these legs over, and you see me doing it, but you shouldn't do that, because if you have solder on your tip, you're going to fling it all over your board and create bridges. But you know, this is the amateur channel. So let's get this out of here. There we go. And survey says shorted, big fat shorted. How about our critical safety cap now that that's out of circuit? Critical safety cap is good. Well, again, not bad, not shorted. Let's test D14 again now that we have that shorted HOT out of there. Does it still read off? Yeah, see, that's too low. That, you know, here, I'll give you an example. I've got another board here from the tube that I used to test these. This is off of that tube that I just happened to have. I mean, I got a bunch of these 7-pin 19-inch 7000 tubes, and this just happens to be the chassis off the tube that I happen to be testing with. And you can see that it needs some rework here, all the flux and everything. But if we just go to D14 on this one, see this one? See, there you go. What did I say? 0.29, 0.28. So that's a normal reading for D14. But for this one, that's much too low. I mean, I'm tempted to replace D14 because that's not what it should read. As a matter of fact, let's do that. Let's yank out that and replace it, because I got plenty of diodes. So it's always fun trying to do this with the flyback installed, because it's hard to access this diode with the flyback in the way. Sometimes you'll see people install these on the bottom side of the board because of that very reason. It's hard to get these out of here. That is down in there. There we go. You bend the legs just right, you can get it to fall out on you. You don't got to deal with trying to extract it. Here we go. This will work better. Come on. There it is. Okay. Let's test this out of circuit here. Well, I don't know. Let's replace it anyway. I gotta dig through my stash here. I gotta move a bunch of stuff out of the way. Hold on a second. I gotta dig out my spare boards here to pull that diode out, and I'll cut away here, get all that done, come back, and I'll have it in hand, and then we'll put it in here and see what we read with the new one installed. Alright, so I got the new diode in hand. If we check it... come on, stay there. Oh, it flipped on me. There we go. Okay, 0.440. Now, I did notice something. I thought, I wonder what the actual pads read on here. So if you notice, with no diode even installed, it reads the exact same. 0.127, 128, 129. So something is very amiss there. So here's the old diode, the one I took out. And here's the one I robbed, I tried to combine two words at the same time from a donor board. So we're going to put this one back in that we robbed and see what we read with this replacement in there, because it shouldn't be reading that low. And then before I forget, let's test our fuse. Fuse is good, and let's test our rectifier diodes. Good. 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 And good. Okay. Well, that's everything. Everything that could possibly be tested for a dead or blowing fuse or not working or working and then not working and whatever. Everything that could possibly cause issues of not powering up or being dead, things like that, have been checked, and nothing we found was amiss except for this D14 oddity and of course the HOT being shorted. So we need to figure out if maybe this D14 had something to do with it, or possibly it just HOT failed. Like I've had numerous videos where HOT was blown, we didn't find anything wrong, simply put a new one in and it came right to life. So these components do fail without any other external cause. So it does happen and it's not abnormal. Trying to size this up before I try and fight getting it in there. Okay. Yeah, it's sandwiched. I gotta make sure I get it in there correctly. It's sandwiched right in here between this cap and the side wall. And got one leg in. Is it a miracle? That's a miracle. How about that? Will it stay in there? Stay in there, you rascal. Ah! Let's get a little solder on here, see if we can... Nope, that's going to fall right out. Can I push it through from the... Nope, it fell out. Oh, you rat bastard. Okay, back in there. Now, can I get it to stay in? Let's try the old pinky method here. Okay, reinstalled. Let's see what it reads now. Does it read the same thing? It's this way. Same thing. Wow. It reads the same thing with a diode installed or not installed. Now D13 for comparison. I have to go the other way here. See, there's a good reading. So, and we saw on the other 19-inch that I just showed that it reads the 0.27, 0.28. That's a normal reading. This is not. And that makes me wonder about the flyback. Huh. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll have to get another HOT in here and turn it on, see what it does. Can't say. So let's I'm gonna cut away here and dig through my stash and find my HOT bag, and then or my K7000 bag I should say, with my parts in it. We'll grab an HOT, throw it in, turn it on, see what happens. So bear with me one moment. Alright, so here's my bag 7000 parts. And let's go in here and grab an HOT. I think I've got a bunch of these HOTs, quite honestly. I got some IC1s and IC2s and vertical ICs and fuses and counterfeit voltage regulators and real regulators and alternate HOTs, more voltage regulators, and $13.98. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. So hopefully we don't burn through one of these. But except for the D14 anomaly, nothing else tested bad. So shouldn't, unless this was arcing to the frame, which I don't think so. It's possible that, like I say, it's possible that HOT just simply went out, but it had been replaced before. That is not the original one, from what I can tell. There it is. It's always important to secure this before you solder it in place, because once you solder it in place, if it doesn't hole doesn't line up, you're gonna have to go through and unsolder it again. Okay, not too tight, just snug, that's all you need. Not too tight, not too sweet, just good. Okay, and I guess we'll repeat the process here. Fold that over. Fold that over. And that one's okay. Don't need a lot. Okay, let's see what this reads now. Now we are 0.5 and 0.5. D14 still read odd. Yep, huh. It reads the same both ways. Something is not right there. Now that runs through another capacitor and a resistor, and then it goes straight to the flyback. Well, in the sake of, or for the sake of pure scientific curiosity, I want to fire this up just the way that it is now. Because we tested everything and it seemed okay. I mean, it has the original filter cap, but that shouldn't be an issue. And everything tested okay. So unless the flyback is no good, I don't know, that, you know, we didn't test R91 and R92. There's two resistors in here that R91 and R92 that are in here. If they open up, that can actually take out D13 and D14. I'm just curious if either one of those are bad. They should be 1.3 ohms respectively on each one. 1.3 and 1.3, so those are good. Huh. Well, let's just hook it up, see what it does. Here we go. Alright, here we go. I don't have a video signal hooked up because we're only interested to see if it powers on or if the HOT gets taken out immediately and things like that. So we got anode neck, yoke ground, power, and there's no remote board because the 19-inch has them on the chassis, and no video because we're not interested. So okay, here we go. What's going to happen? 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's on. It's running. And it's staying running. We don't have anything on the screen yet. As you can see. Man, my lens is dirty. Look at that. Wow. Let's try to turn up our brightness. Nothing yet. Contrast. Nothing. So let's turn those about mid-range. Turn our screen pot up. Hey, we got an image. Look at that. All right, so brightness. Not really any effect on the brightness or contrast because there's no image or no video signal. Okay, well let's remedy that here. All right, and here we go. Yeah, sure enough. Okay, brightness all the way down, contrast all the way down, screen pot down till the raster lines just go away. Brightness until it's no longer black, and then down till it is black. Contrast as needed. Oh, there we go. Well, it's working, and that would correspond with our testing, not finding anything wrong. Focus right about there. I can't explain that D14 anomaly, but obviously, well, as long as the diode is good, I guess it doesn't matter. But that's very odd. Okay, let's make sure we can adjust H position. Yep, and vertical position right here. Yep, that works. Vertical size. Yep, that works. Hold works obviously because brightness yeah, that's it. It's working. It's not working. Look at that. No red. Wow, glad I checked that. No red. Well, let's see if we can figure that out. Hang on 1 second. My battery is about to die. Alright, so I still got my RGB color bars up and no red. But some quick testing is showing that if we touch the green transistor, it's nice and warm. The blue transistor, nice and warm. The red transistor is cold as ice. So either it's not getting power or it's open. And we need to go through, there's obvious work that's been done on this neck board. So it's possible the color transistor is simply dead, or there's some other problem on the neck board. But yep, we are missing red, and the drive transistor is ice cold. Now it's very important that you don't touch it. If you do touch this like I'm doing, you can see I can touch this and it's okay. I don't recommend doing any of this unless you know what you're doing. Please don't do any of this unless you know what you're doing. And everybody learns from trial and error, and believe me, I've learned from trial and error. You can touch this and be relatively safe, the heat sinks here on the transistors. But don't, like if I was to lean on the frame here, if I lean my arm on this and touch that, I'd get a nice little shock because I ground myself through my body to the frame. So it's very important you don't have any other contact with anything other than just the heat sink. So please don't do any of this unless you know what you're doing. But little disclaimer. Yeah, so the green one here is nice and warm, blue is nice and warm, yeah, red is ice cold. So let's get this back off the tube and do some troubleshooting here on this neck board and see what we can figure out. Well, the first thing obviously here is to test the transistors to make sure that it's not open. So if we go to to diode mode. And if we check the green one, we've got 0.5 and 0.9. Here's the blue one, 0.5 and 0.9. And the red one, 0.5 and 1.1. And that's not enough to really say that it's bad. I'm going to say that it's not bad. So let's take a look here. Obvious rework has been done. This was not done by me. I'll get all that flux all over everything. If we follow, that seems all right. Do we have open traces? Here to here? Nope. Here to here? Nope. Here to here? Nope. That's all good. Wow, these are crusty. Man, look at that. That is crusty. Wow. Surprised those are all hanging on for dear life. But we can test. We put them in the center. They should read somewhat close to the green ones. We got 90. 90. Well, that shouldn't be. That's more like it. Okay. Now if we go to the green one, drive and drive. So the green drive at center is 104 ohms. The red drive at center is 800 ohms. I don't see how that could be. It's a 2K ohm pot. Let's turn it all the way down and see what it does. 1.2. How could that be 1.2 all the way down? That's a short. That's a short. No, it's not. It's a different circuit. Okay. Okay. Well, now wait a minute. Why is the green drive pot 200 ohms and the red drive pot is 2K ohm? Is that right? Of course, what this one doesn't say, of course not. But if we were to turn up this one all the way and test it, yeah, so all the way up is 0.8, all the way down is it's supposed to be 200 ohm. Why is this one 2K? That's not right. That's 200. Oh, someone's got the pots in the wrong spot. They've got the cutoff pot in the drive pot and the drive pot in the cutoff pot. So that's what it is. Yeah, the cutoffs are supposed to be 2K. Here, if you look here, maybe you can see. The cutoff pot is supposed to be 2K, And the drive pot is supposed to be, I can't even turn that one, good lord, 200. And again, cutoff 2K, drive 200, cutoff 200, drive 2K. So someone's got the color pots in the wrong spot, but that shouldn't cause no color. That should not cause no red. That should not cause no red, so we'll have to fix that, but that's not the cause of our problem. And someone's changed out a couple of the color resistors as well. Which one of these is for red? This one. This one's for red that they've changed. Solder joints look okay. I need to hook it back up and see if this is getting warm. See, now you would think, you'd think that, you know, maybe it's a problem with with this transistor here for the red, or this bipolar cap, or IC1. But if that was the case, the transistor would be getting hot. If we had an issue with the main board where it was missing an input off the actual chassis, this transistor in theory should still be warming up. It's just not getting a signal. But in this case it's ice cold, meaning it's not being commanded to turn on. It's not turning on. So we got to figure out if it's a signal to the transistor to turn it on, or if the transistor itself is bad. I don't think the transistor itself is bad. What we can do is we can swap it. Let's just do that. Let's just swap it here. Okay, so there it is, removed. Let's clean up the pads real quick. Okay, let's test it out of circuit. I need to angle this a bit different here. There we go. Alright, let's test this out of circuit. And does this ring to there? It does, so we can go to here, open, and point. See, that's correct. You know what? I may have some of these. Let me see if I have some of these. If we do, I'll just toss a new one in to rule it out. I'm not sure if I have any of those, quite honestly. That's IC2, IC1, transistors R103, fuses. No, I don't have any color transistors. Let me look at the rest of my stash. Hang on a minute. Well, it turns out I don't have any extra ones, so we're going to swap it with the green one here. And just see if it, the most likely issue is the transistor is no good. Because like I say, even if the main board had a problem where it had an issue sending the red signal, I still think that the transistor should turn on and warm up. The fact that it's not doing that makes me think that it's possibly the transistor itself is not functioning. Well, I got that leg bent. There we go. Alright, so before we get too far here, we'll just put an X on that one. Alright, now, in case there's something wrong that took this out, I don't want to put a known good one in case something is wrong, and I don't want to kill this one too. So what we'll do is we'll leave this one out, and we'll simply install the possible bad one in the green location. And if we get green, then at least we can rule out the transistor. All right. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's get it hooked back up, see if we have green. If we are missing green, then we know that for a fact the transistor is the problem. So let's get it hooked up and see what we find out. Okay, hooked back up. Let's turn this on. We got anode, neck, yoke, ground, power, and video. So here we go. Let's see if we get if we still have green or if we lost green. 1, 2, 3. Okay, springs right to life, and we still have green. Look at that. Okay, so it is not the transistor. All right. Well, let's put that other one back in. And maybe I can swap neck boards. I don't know, because this has had a bunch of rework done to it. I'm half tempted to just swap neck boards. That was weird. Had a little flash real quick, but I have tempted to just swap neck boards because of all the rework that's been done to this, just to rule the neck board out. If we can rule out the neck board, then we can focus on the main chassis. But before we go to all that trouble, I'll inspect some more stuff here first. If I don't see anything obviously wrong, then I'll swap the entire neck board, see what we get from that. So here we go. Alright, so I have successfully done a neck board transplant, rather haphazardly here. But here is the original neck board that was on this chassis that has the replacement resistors and the rusted pots and the red drive and cut off, they're in the wrong spot and all that. And this is the neck board off of this chassis that I showed earlier when testing D14 that I had, that actually belongs to this tube. So after replacing the neck board or swapping the neck board out, we have red. So our problem is definitely on the neck board, as I suspected. Because like I say, if it was a problem with the main chassis, the transistor at least should still power up and get warm. It's just missing the red signal. So there's absolutely something wrong with the neck board. So now it's going to come time to put this back on here and see if we can troubleshoot this one and figure out why there's no red. So let's do that. But as you can clearly see, I've got red with this neck board from this one. So let's see if we can figure out what's wrong with this one. Okay, let's see if we can get this figured out. We already know that the pots are in the wrong spot for the red, but if one of them was open, if you have any one of your two color pots are open, it's very possible you could have no red, or no color I should say. I went ahead and reinstalled the original green drive transistor in the red spot, since we know the color transistor is not the problem. But let's begin by checking these resistors that have been replaced to make sure they're all 6.8K. 6.7, 6.7, and 6.7. So it's not a resistor issue. The new cap in C204 is not in backwards. We know it's not the transistor. Let's just remove these crusty, corroded, oxidized pots. Might have to actually desolder this one. No, I got it. Okay. Wow, those are bad. Alright, so now let's check these to see what they read. $200. So it's working. This should be somewhere near 100. Yeah, 112. So that should be our bias or drive. Drive is 200. Okay, so this needs to go back in the drive location. Baby, you can drive my pot, though you'll have no red color. Beep beep and beep beep short. What's going on here? Alright, now the cutoff is the 2K one. Maybe a simple fact of these being backwards, but I don't think so. 1K, we turn it all the way up, we get 2K. Well, that's working too, wow. So it's not an open pot. We know it's not a main chassis problem. I don't visually see anything wrong. Somebody's reflowed the header pins for the connector that goes to the main board. We can verify none of those are shorted to each other. Nope. So the red circuit runs through this R210 2.5K. I think that's correct because these two over here, yep, 2.5K is fine. It's not a connection on the actual socket. So red comes in here. Red comes in here, goes through the transistor. Somebody was troubleshooting this previously because that's how they got the pots in backwards. But I don't think the simple act of the pots being in backwards would cause that. But the red signal comes in here, goes right to the transistor, and then through all of the color circuitry, and then off and around to off the resistor, through over to here. Back through here to there, across here to there. Yeah, Well, I think what we'll do, we know that the resistor is good. This resistor is good. The pots we checked. The transistor is good. So short of, and the connection for the socket is good. So short of these being backwards, I'm not sure. I'm kind of at a loss. So after swapping these back and verifying they're good, let's try it again and see what we get. So let's do that. Alright, so the neck board's reinstalled. Everything's hooked back up, ready to go. So let's turn on the test pattern generator. And let's see what we get. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it comes on just fine. Make sure we still have our image. Yes, we do. And do we have red? Well, I'll be dipped. Look at that. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that the color pots being in backwards would cause this, cause color to be missing. But I think I know why. I think I know the answer. So let's go into the science behind this and see if I can articulate why I think I know what the problem is. But as we can see, we now have red, and the only thing that we did was swap these back to the correct location. Remember, the drive pot was in the the drive pot was in the cutoff spot, and the cutoff pot was in the drive spot. Now, one of them is only supposed to be 200 ohms. The other one is supposed to be 2K ohm, and I'm going to dive into the science of why I think those being in the wrong spot or backwards would cause no color here in a moment. But that was the issue with this, is those were in backwards. We checked all the solder joints, we checked all the traces, we checked the resistors, we swapped the transistor, and there was no explanation for having no red except for that possibility, and that ended up being the correct result, or if you will. That ended up being the actual cause, is those being in backwards. And we hooked up we knew for a fact it was a neckboard problem by putting the other neckboard on here and proving that. So and yep, nice and toasty. Nice and toasty now. So alright, so now that we have a functional chassis, I still need to go through and do all the reflow that I normally do and do the full cleanup of all the flux residue that I showed before and what's still on all this stuff. But let's go ahead and turn this off and turn this off, and let's take this off the tube and go through the science of why I think this is the cause of this being backwards can cause no colors. So here we go. Alright, so looking at this logically, if we zoom in here and look at the circuit, the actual circuit that these pots go off of, well, you know, let me clean some of this off first, because there's so much damn flux on this, it's hard to see and follow the traces. Here it is. Okay, give me a moment here. Okay, that's a bit better, good enough for our overview here. So if we look here at the actual circuitry, here is the cutoff pot. This is the cutoff pot, and this is the bias pot. If you look at the bias pot, you can see these two contacts are joined together on a trace. This one's not. So when you have one that is supposed to be 200 ohms, if I recall, this one's the 2K. So this is the actual cutoff pot's 2K. So if you follow with me here, if we have a 200 ohm pot in this location where it's supposed to be a 2K, you won't get a high enough resistance. Even with the 200 ohm pot cranked all the way to 200, the cutoff pot requires a much higher rating, and vice versa. So if we had a 2K pot in this one, if these are backward, you would have to have this pot turned all the way down to 200 or less, and this one turned up to 200. And I don't think 200 is enough to induce color onto the circuit. So hopefully that makes sense. If you need to have at least, let's say, 800 ohms to induce color into the circuit through the cutoff, and the pot's only going to go to 200, you're not inducing enough resistance into the circuit to turn on the transistor. And same thing with the bias pot. If you got, the bias pot's only supposed to be 200 ohms. If you've got, you know, 1.2 k ohm on this, it may be going in some type of protection mode or something. But that's my idea of what's going on here, is that you've got too little resistance on the cutoff by having the 200 in there versus the 2K, and you have too high of resistance on the bias by having the 2K versus the 200. It's hard for me to articulate all that. But I think that's the idea and the science behind this, is that, yeah, you can't, if you have too little of resistance on the pot that needs higher resistance, or too high of resistance on the pot that requires a low resistance, I think it'll cancel each other out or cause some kind of wonkiness in the circuit, and it just won't turn the transistor on. It just simply won't turn it on. So I think, now that I look at it logically, I think that's what the problem was, and it makes sense when you think about it in that aspect, in that terminology, or that idea logically. It makes total sense that this wouldn't turn on if it's getting too low of resistance where it needs to be high, or too high of resistance where it needs to be low. It'd be the same as if you had the pot removed from the circuit. It's looking for, you know, for instance, this is looking for, let's say, you know, 1.2K, and it's reading 40 ohms. That's way too low, and it thinks that this pot's not installed, and it just doesn't turn on the transistor. So I think that's what was happening. So, that being solved, I mean, what we had was, we had a blown HOT, not blown, blown means open, short. We had a shorted HOT, and we had a suspect D14, but I don't think it's actually bad, so we're not going to include that in the possibility of bad components. All we really simply had was a bad HOT. Now, what caused the HOT to go out, I can't say. Now, how in tarnation did a shorted HOT not take out the fuse? I have no idea. Now that I think about it, let's make sure it's actually a 2. It's 1.5. It's 1.5, so it's not overfused. So I don't know. I can't recall an HOT being shorted that didn't take out the fuse, but, you know, this thing is throwing me for a loop in all kinds of aspects. The fuse should have been blown with the shorted HOT, and I would never have imagined, this is the first time I've come across pots being installed in the wrong location or swapped that killed a color. So, live and learn. It's always fun doing these videos because I come across stuff like this that I've never seen before. And now you know that if you have a chassis that's missing a color, it can be any one of a number of different things. You know, like it could be the transistor, it could be bad solder joints, it could be a cracked solder joint, it could be a broken trace from somebody moving the transistor, it could be an open pot, it could be one of these 3 transistors could be bad here, it could be a bad bias, a bipolar cap, it could be a bad IC1, it could be a bad solder joint on the header pin. And now, to add to all of that possibility, we find that it could also be pots in backwards. So, lots of stuff to troubleshoot when you got a missing color, but this is now repaired. So I'm going to go through and do all of the cleanup and the reflow and fixing, putting my bridges here and fixing this here, and going through and touching up all the other spots. The ribbon cable I mentioned, I like to reflow the solder joints on this ribbon cable. These 3 and these 3. This pair, these 3 posts there, and these 3 posts right there. I got to clean up all of this flux residue from the previous repair attempt. But yeah, we now have a working and operational chassis. I need to run it through its paces, of course, after I clean it up and do all of this stuff and the flux removal. I run it for about 2 hours. I've mentioned before that about 2 to 3 hours is really all I ever do on these burn-ins. There's no reason to run it for 24 hours, because if something's going to burn up, or something is bad, or something's going to fail, it's going to fail within a 3-hour period. You know, that's just my opinion. There's no need to run it for 24 hours. I run it for a good 2 or 3 hours. If nothing fails, it's good. And to date, I have never had a chassis get sent back to me because I did something wrong, or something that I installed failed within 5 minutes of booting it up. Now, there could be an instance where that happened and no one reported back, but to the best of my recollection, I have never had a chassis returned after repair because of something that I did that caused damage, or didn't test it long enough, or things like that. So I'll just say that. All right, so let me get all the work done to this, the reflow and the cleanup, and I'll do my burn-in period. and we'll call it a success. So where's my sheet? Okay, so we'll call this one, we'll just do that. Alright, so that's, is that two? It's two for three that we fixed so far. But I think the first one that we did, just the previous video to this one, I don't think it was actually dead. It's been a couple of days, I can't recall. Pardon me. I don't think it was actually dead. This one wasn't dead either. This one, well, actually, it probably was dead with the shorted HOT. It probably was dead, but the fuse wasn't blown, and that's just what makes me scratch the head here. Scratch the old bald noggin. Was why would the fuse wouldn't be blown if the HOT was shorted? But who knows? All right. Well, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the third and final one. It's going to be a 25-inch 7000, and it's obviously dead as well. So that'll be hopefully not as adventurous as this one. That's very interesting. Never seen that before.